Hello, brownies. I have missed you all. It's your girl coming to you straight from the sick and shut in list. I just wanted to give you a pre-warning. In this video, it is going to sound like I am yelling at you. I am not. This is just passion because my one and only actually just graduated this past weekend and I wasn't able to attend because I was in bed with my left side swollen and just in pain and on ice packs. And I guess I'm just still a little bit tender and a little bit raw about that. I had to catch the live stream playback instead of actually being there in the moment because for the damage that my hemiplegic migraines did to my body, where they left off, crippling anxiety took over the rest. And that's going to be another story for another day. But what I notice is, especially about our community, if it's not anxiety is not real to most people, and depression is not real, and people think that it's just, well, what you're sad about, you know. And if it's not the sugar or the gout or cancer or something that is more tangible or it comes with more physically recognizable traits, I don't think that it's met with the same amount of compassion and the same amount of care. So I am a little raw about that, but he made it across that finish line with distinction. It used to be graduating with honors in my day, but it's graduating with distinction, and then we'll be headed to college, full ride scholarship in the fall. And that's without the second bio parent being in the picture and with paying no child support, which proves that the village model works. My family was with him and surrounded him and was supportive. The village model works, whether that other person chooses to be there or not. And this fatalism that we have about children that didn't grow up in two-parent households, so to speak, is just false. So I know that this is going to be a lot, but I want you to listen to it to the end. And it's a lot, but it's a word. Welcome to the Pretty Brown Rise channel. Let's just go ahead and get into it because I'm seriously heated right now. Watching Real Housewives of Atlanta has really just become, it's gone from being a source of excitement to a source of just embarrassment. We have this issue in this community with just calling a thing, especially as it pertains to these males who are destroying not only us, but also each other. They're not doing the protecting. They're not doing the providing. And let's just take a moment to shout out the ones that actually are doing everything that they're supposed to do. Out there making women wives instead of just baby mamas. Out there being fathers instead of leaving children unattended and lacking in resources. So let's shout out the ones that actually do what it is that they are supposed to do. The ones that get up and go to work instead of getting up and going out and trying to rob somebody who actually did what they were supposed to do in life. And then you're taking a shortcut and just taking what someone else has earned. I can always give credit where credit is due. However, when we talk about the air quotations good ones, what I'm going to need from the good ones is for them to actually call it out as it pertains to the rest of them. Okay? Because according to Iyanla, if you are not also born a male, then you cannot advise a man on manhood. But anybody who knows the difference between right and wrong can tell somebody else that, okay? Regardless of age, gender, or anything else. And we just need to call this out. We spend so much time trying to punish or hold Black women accountable for what men do that it's deplorable at this point. Let's just go ahead and change the name of the show to the Real Pick-Me's of Atlanta. We have a career criminal like Marlo who comes from career criminals. When we talk about how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, we always have to remember it's two trees. Is it not disturbing to you all that in this community, we rarely even acknowledge that other tree? It's just like it's a foregone conclusion that the other tree took up roots and ran off somewhere. Isn't that sad? We know about the addictions of Marlo's mother and her sister or sisters that's producing these unfathered nephews that's ending up being taken off the map and having to be adopted or whatever and raised by another family member. Where are their fathers, though? Did they exist? What happened to the other tree? The amount of time, energy, and effort that is spent on trying to berate Todd for being what would be considered a 10 or 5%er for this community by being a six-figure earner and not being a 1%er of this community by being a millionaire or multimillionaire like his wife it's baffling to me. Opportunist and throwing all of these different words out. A man, we're talking about a man here that came in and respectfully, because you all know that I respect Kandi. I'm always going to go up for a successful black woman. I do not care. I'm always going to go up for that. I live for that. But let's call a thing a thing. There was some much needed structure and upgrade as far as spit and polish and shine and decorum and just upgrade all the way around when Todd brought his expertise into the picture. It's great for her to have money, but outside of her singing career and bedroom Kandi, and we can't even give her the podcast, the Candy Coated podcast, because Todd had to come in and spiff that up too. Y'all were out there on a folding table with a $5 tablecloth over it and folding chairs or whatever. Todd came in and he put some shine and some structure to that too. That's what a man does. And we have all of this smoke for Todd, but we won't ask the simple question, but also, where are the rest of the fathers? Because Todd didn't even know about his daughter at first, did not even find out about her existence until she was elementary school age, 7 years old. And from that point on, nobody has been able to refute that he was an active role in that child's life. She was talking about the instant upgrade that came along when she was able to find out about her father, and her father was able to find out about her. The fact that she was able to travel and travel well for the first time in her life because of her father and his connections and his lifestyle. And y'all act like this man is, I don't know, like y'all husbands making the same $50,000 a year or less. I really don't understand this. All of the smoke that you have for Todd, but what about the other men or the lack thereof on this show? We don't know anything about Marlo's father, but we know about her mom's addiction. We know about her sister's addiction issues. Where are the fathers to these boys that's living in her house now? All of this jail talk and prison talk. We got that with Kandi's nephew, the one who was, harmed by another employee or ex-employee outside the restaurant. Wasn't that the exact same nephew that Kandi had to come and adopt or really kind of take under her wing because his father was in prison? What about all of the smoke that you all had for Phaedra when she was saying that she didn't know whether or not she wanted to let the kids visit Apollo in prison because of all of the things that go on around that? I 100% understood what she was trying to say. Look at the example that's being set for the children. Well, it don't matter. A father just deserves to be in a child's life. No, not if he's causing more harm than good and if he's setting a piss poor example. This whole notion of a piece of man is better than no man at all is false. It always has been false. And you all put these men on pedestals who do more harm than good. It is not Phaedra's fault that Apollo was in jail at least the second time. And it wasn't the first time. Because even if she played a part in the scheme, as an adult, you make your own decisions. And this was his second bid. If you were really concerned about your children, would you not do what it takes to stay in their lives, i.e. get a job that, do something other than being a criminal? How about Drew talking about she has the family that's in prison and the family with the distant daddy thing? The father of her first child wasn't in his life because he was in prison. Is this not upsetting to you all? Do we not see a pattern here? And we have grown women bickering and arguing back and forth with each other, but not calling these men out for their absence, not calling the men out for wanting to be jailbirds rather than fathers, for not being fathers when they're no longer in prison, not getting their lives back on track. And let's just continue to blame the system and all of these other things. We can admit that there are other outlying factors and mitigating factors and legislation and so forth and so on. But it's something about the males of this community that we completely take personal responsibility out of the equation. Can we talk about the fact that 9 times out of the 10, when it comes to the statistic of us being taken off the board what is the statistic now? Every 5.5 hours? It's one of them. How about when it happens to each other? You're talking about Kandi. Well, she doesn't want to talk about her life and she doesn't keep it real. The reason why your nephew is gone is because somebody else just like him took him away from you and from the family. It makes no sense to hold Kandi more responsible for not talking about an incident that happened 3 years ago to a former employee of hers who was not even an employee at that time. He had stopped working for Kandi 6-7 months prior to that incident. This was a dispute between roommates where once again, for the umpteenth time and for the 4th, 5th, 6th, 1000th century in a row, you have the males of your community who would rather resort to weapons because they can't use words. That is the problem. These are the facts, and the facts are these. Imagine if we held men responsible for what they do and do not do in the same manner in which we held black women accountable for everything. Well, you can't talk about boys, as Iyanla said, because boys are raised by women. Therein lies the problem. Why are they not raised by their fathers? We tiptoe, we bend over backwards and twist ourselves into pretzels in order to avoid stating who and what the problem is. As we speak of these addictions that have plagued several people in the cast and their families, within this community, as it pertains to the trafficking and selling of what caused these addictions. Now, who does that look like? Who are the criminals in that situation more often than not? Well, see, the thing is, there was a plant by the CIA because we don't own planes and we don't own boats. Do we own personal responsibility, though? As we hold women accountable and say that they should have chosen better or made better choices, when they get involved with men who then do not support them and provide them with resources and protect and provide for them, do we not hold men accountable for creating new life and new bills and new problems and then running off like a thief in the night? The way they had Kandi on there, she was talking to Phaedra about the whole, we made sure that my nephew or my cousin or whatever was able to go down there and see his dad. Okay. What was the purpose of that? To show him how he didn't want to live or didn't want to end up? I'm confused. If these men wanted to be a part of their children's lives, then they should not have done what they did to get their freedom taken away from them. Notice that in all of these situations, nobody is proclaiming the innocence of these men. And there we are, leaving women to always pick up the pieces and still being attacked by other women for being single moms or for doing what needs to be done. Imagine telling a woman, your elder, who is sitting there in front of you, 70 years old, almost twice your age, and you tell her that the reason why you have to protect and provide for yourself is because no one for the entirety of your life, no man, not even your own father, has ever done that for you on a consistent basis, and you refuse to do without. And for her to then tell you that you're masculine. Are we going to admit the fact that if women have to show up as masculine, it is because men are not showing up as masculine? In each one of these situations where a nephew or a cousin or a family member was almost put in the situation to cancel all future appointments, or in Marlo's nephew's case, he actually was, it was somebody who looked just like him who did this to him. That's the problem. These women are too successful to be exhibiting this pick-me behavior like they are. It is truly disturbing. Sheree, you're making excuses for Martell. A blind man could see that his issue with Melody is not about babysitters. It is the fact that he can no longer control her. And he's using her Achilles heel, the Achilles heel of just about every woman that has ever become a mother. And that is your children. You want her to continue to be kind to somebody who said, I want full custody of the children. A woman who has shown no signs of harming the children at all, who is gainfully employed and still very much the breadwinner now as a single parent, just as she was when you all were married. You say, I want to take your children away from you and get full custody. That's ungodly. The reason why you have to even fight for custody is because you did not have the self-control and the self-discipline. It was because of your own personal choices. That's what broke up your family, not the so-called mistresses, but you. You broke up your family. And now all over the world, you have other women dragging Mel and calling her vindictive and so forth and so on. Who cast the first, second, third through 15th stone of the vindictiveness? They try to place men in a higher position, and it is one that they did not earn. Having a Y chromosome does not automatically make you a leader. Proven leadership skills is what makes you a leader, not gender. So many of them that are just simply not equipped to lead. And according to Iyanla, it's going to be up to those who actually are. The men who are setting fine examples. The men who are husbands, who are fathers, who are protectors and providers. Call this stuff out. But trying to hold women accountable for being with them or for not choosing better, wouldn't it make more sense to talk about the fact that we don't have better choices? And the so-called good choices are so few and far between. You got Kenya Moore, for example, a real life beauty queen. Walter, the first guy that she was with on the show, has slept with half of Atlanta. He's not given the same type of title and the same type of smoke that Kandi is. Nobody went around talking about how many bodies he had. If Kenya was just a problem, then so was all of the other dozens of women that he's been with. What about Matt? Remember, you all always say, give a broke dude a chance. Okay, she did that. And look what happened. He tried to break her face and her house. That's what happens when you get a broke dude a chance and end up having to foot the bill for his lifestyle, pay for him for travel. He ends up moving in with you and then smashing your house up to bits when you have to kick him out because he's trying to be aggressive. And then Sheree even tried to blame Kenya for Matt's behavior. Well, let's see. When Matt was no longer with Kenya, he still ended up being arrested. How was that Kenya's fault? What about Mark Daly? He's supposed to be established. He was supposed to be a restaurateur, a business owner, black man. He got other kids, taking care of his kids. He had been married. He got divorced. Who cares? It didn't work out. So his first marriage wasn't Kenya's fault. So if this marriage, that's 100% Kenya's fault, right? She did what you all told her to do. She chose better. Now she chose the man with the money and the education and that's more established and stable. And then now he's trying to take her house when he never even lived in it. A house that she had bought and rehabbed or whatever, paid in full before she ever even met this man or knew he existed. And he's trying to take something away from her. But it's just Kenya, right? Because she's just unstable and she's not suitable. Look at Cynthia. Give a brother a chance. A man can change. Okay, did Mike? Was she the reason that his first marriage went bad? What about Peter? Is he in a committed, monogamous, stable relationship now? Choose to do what he maybe had some mistakes in his past, but look at him. He can get back on his feet. Yeah, he got back on his feet because he lived off of her the whole time that he wasn't on his feet. And now that he's back on his feet, who is he in a committed, monogamous relationship with? How many of his 6 to 8 children that he has spread out over multiple women actually live with him? These good black men that you all talk about, these great examples, whether from the ones with money to the dusties, where are the good ones though? Because it seems as though your finances are, that's the least of your worry when your character is not intact. Marlo had more smoke for Ralph not adopting Drew's son that is not biologically his than she did for the father who wasn't present because he was in prison and then was not present after he was no longer a prisoner. Have your smoke for that. But see, that's where you live. That's what's familiar to you. So you don't have a problem with that because that's the norm for you. You have all of this smoke with Kandi for not wanting to talk about an ongoing legal matter that she was not present for and that she was not involved in. It just so happened to happen at one of her establishments. Oh, yes, baby, one of her establishments, one of her restaurants. And that's what you're really mad about. She has the husband, she has the careers, she has the money, she's self-made, she got it honest, and all you all do is hurl insults at her that are 20 years old. This woman has been married and engaged and with this man for over a decade. And y'all have to reach so far back in her past to talk about what she used to do and who she used to sleep with consent. How is this a scandal? For a single woman to have sex with a consenting adult? Where is the scandal? Y'all have more smoke for Kandi than you do for Block, who was a man of means and local and still was not actively and continuously, consistently a part of Riley's life. Sheree has to be one of the world's worst. You were a mom at the age of 15, which means, daughter, you're talking about Kandi and her unladylike or whorish past or this, that, and the third. Girl, if you had your first one at 15, that just means that's when it was born. Now you got 9 months before that. That means that you are already very much so active at the age of 14. But at what age before that did you even start? Incomplete education, high school dropout, whatever you are. I mean, my goodness. There is nothing that you would have were it not for your proximity or for your entanglements with men. And Marlo is the same way. As a matter of fact, that's the same thing for everybody who has smoke with Kandi. Have we not noticed this? Sheree has a history of making excuses for the bad behavior of men. And then with this next generation, you are now a grandmother because your son, who had a Stanford educated, wealthy father in his life, so still with money and with education and with him being present or semi-present or knowing who he is or so forth and so on, we still get the same results as him turning somebody else into a baby mama. As we continue to browbeat single black mothers, show me what your evidence is that just by a man being there, regardless of what type of man he is and what type of example that he sets, that child is automatically going to have a better life and a better outcome just simply because somebody with a Y chromosome decided to walk through the front door and sit down. That makes no sense. In fact, it has already been disproven, and yet we still keep repeating this and trying to force this on the next generation and the next generation. Instead of telling it like it is, drop the dead weight. And if you want to be a winner, disassociate yourself from losers. You have Sheree, who was in a toxic marriage with a man who put hands on her as huge as this man is. This is a football player. Putting hands on her. You made excuses for that. You hid the truth from yourself, from the general public, from your children. And then tried to make amends and get back with him after a while. That young man, Glenn, who was on the Florida trip seasons ago, that ended up knocking his aunt down and sending her to the hospital and trying to attack the ladies. You all continued to make excuses for him and put the onus solely on Kenya. Who did Kenya physically attack? Who did Kenya hospitalize during that trip? Inquiring minds want to know. Refused to hold him accountable. Started talking about Trayvon Martin and all of these other people. That was not the same situation. You have the nerve to call somebody who's in prison for 8 years for defrauding charities your boyfriend. Are you serious or are you insane? Like, are you serious? Do you really think that you're in a committed monogamous relationship with someone who is out of state and in prison? That man lives in your phone. And then the moment that he gets out of prison, all of a sudden, you're not in a relationship anymore. Look at Sonya. Sonya went out and married her equivalent, somebody who was a multimillionaire, double Super Bowl winning athlete. And then if you watch that show, that first reality show that she had that was just about her and her family, everybody was living off Sonya, including her father. And then as it pertains to her brother-in-law, this man had to be the most disrespectful, showed all of the signs of a violent male to the point that after he snapped off on her sister in public, the parents called him to the carpet. No, tell that young man to come to my house, sit down at my table, and we need to talk about him. This relationship is over. You're not good for my daughter. When he got to the house, it was Sonya's mother laying down the law, while her dad, who's living off of her, as the rest of the family is, sat there like a deaf mute and didn't even check the young man. And after he had disrespected your daughter, you let him come into your house, sit down at your table and disrespect you and your wife. And he did absolutely nothing to put that boy in check. How do we know that? Because years later now, he's married to your daughter, has children with your daughter, and he's using your older daughter as a meal ticket, just like the rest of the family. And then talking cash crazy to her. How dare you? You got the sister getting smart with her as you live in this woman's house. How dare you ask my man to do work for you just because he's your employee? You need to change his hours. He needs to change his job and go get a real job and stop living off of your sister. We can't even celebrate successful black women because they keep holding on to this black male failure. Get rid of it. And if you're not going to get rid of it, at the very least, stop excusing it and stop promoting it to other black women who actually want something better for themselves.